Good morning everyone and welcome to Safari Live. My name's Hayden Turner and I cannot tell you how excited I am to be back here on Djuma Private Game Reserve here in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I've got excitement oozing out of every pore. For people that haven't met me before, I was back here right at the start in November last year and a couple of times throughout up until now, but I've joined this great team with Pieter last night and Graham, and yeah, it is absolutely sensational to be back. I've got Brian here with me this morning, and being back in the saddle with Brian is just, it's all just very nostalgic for me, but at the same time incredibly exciting. This morning we've got Tara directing with Nikki, and we've got Kirsty and Jess and Alex in final control. The rest of the team, everyone's just been absolutely incredible. It was an amazing thing last night to stand around and watch this cohesive team around this fire. And also South Africa won the rugby last night, which was pretty cool too. But I have to say, it's an honour to be here and a privilege. And for those of you who haven't met me before, obviously my accent's not from here. I feel like I was born in the wrong country. My heart lies on this continent, and there's no doubt about it. I love Australia. I was born there. I'll tell you a little bit about my story on the way through. I won't bore you with that too much now, but it's just a beautiful thing to be back here. This morning, 26 degrees, 79 Fahrenheit. It's just absolutely beautiful. Brian, how lovely, mate. It's peace, it's the tranquility, it's everything. And for me to be back here on this incredible, this project, folks, I just have to share with you, and I know many of you know this, and some of you, if it's your first safari this morning with us, welcome. This is an incredibly unique experience to be able to interact with us live. We've got an earpiece in here, we can get your questions, you can tweet us at hashtag Safari Live, or you can email us questions at wildearth.tv, and it's just a great way to interact with us so we can answer your questions and talk to you. This is the biggest safari vehicle in the world, and as I said, a great honour to be involved. And thank you Safari on Twitter for welcoming us back this morning. It's a great thing to feel that from everyone out there. So just as I drove up on the quarantine here, which is a favourite area of mine, we've seen many a thing up here. There's a tree over here I'm going to talk to you a little bit about later on, but I've just spotted out of the corner of my eye one of my favourite creatures. So, Brian, I think we're going to go over and have a look at one of my favourite creatures. Oh, this is just so fantastic. Everyone that's been with Safari Live for such a long time, thank you. We wouldn't be here without you. That was the noise that Scotty told me about. And the team, Scott and Brent and Jamie and Steph and everyone involved. There's this incredible, magical team happening. And what an honour. We've just got some wonderful, wonderful creatures up here. So I was a zookeeper in Australia many moons ago, and all I ever did from when I was a very, very young age was watch documentaries as a child. And many of you, particularly in the United States, that are watching, and I know many of you are, will remember a great television program which probably got me into wildlife, which was called Wild Kingdom. And there was a guy on there called Marlin Perkins, and I wanted to be Marlin Perkins, safari suit and all. That's all I wanted to do. And that was sort of unlocked or flicked the switch for me, that show. And it was an incredible experience to watch that and just see Africa. And I became a zookeeper, and I was a zookeeper looking after African mammals for about 10 years in Sydney's Taronga Zoo. And then I'll tell you the few of the steps as they unfolded after that, but I was very, very fortunate to have a chance meeting with some executives from National Geographic, and the rest is history. But I'll tell you those little stories along the way. I'm just a very, very lucky boy to be here. And right up here, folks, is an animal that I cared for many years. I'm just going to try and find a little access road to through there. Brian's got a little elevator position. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Right next to the road. We'll just go up nice and slowly. The great thing about, I always call Brian and VM and Andrew and Zondre, who is another amazing guy, the eyes in the sky, because they're a little bit more elevated than us down here. But look at this. Good morning, my friend. That is a lovely, lovely way to start the day. Beautiful. One of my favourite creatures on the planet, folks. And I'm sure many of you watching the same. Browsing their way across this little vegetation line here. This morning and over the drives of the coming days, we've got some very exciting things going on. Lots of little surprises along the way, but you're going to have to help me. You're going to have to help me remember the roads, particularly also some of the creatures and some of the cats when I meet them. You've been watching Safari Live for a long time, and I really rely on your knowledge out there, so I really appreciate it if you can help me with IDing cats and individuals. It's so helpful to have you on board. I'm just going to move up a little bit. They're browsing very, very calmly, and this is one of the things about watching wildlife. It's not how close we can get, it's how much we can sort of go unnoticed in a way. Of course they know we're here, but the thing is, if we can go up there and just make sure that we don't change their behaviour, just creep our way up there and gently, gently approach. Hello, my girl. She's just behind this vegetation here, but I don't want to go any closer because she's just having a really lovely feed on that. And I know everyone's seen giraffe before, but you know, I'm going to tell you a little bit about giraffe. Not only do I think that they're one of the most magnificent African mammals, but there's not a lot known about giraffe. You know, there's been studies gone on for a very, very long time on elephant and many of the big cats, and giraffe, there's not a lot of. There's a lovely bull over here just coming across. I'll tell you when. Sorry, Brian, he's probably going to come over and have a little sniff of this female here. You are beautiful, my boy. Isn't he a stunning looking creature? He's probably going to go down and just smell the tail end there, and what he's doing there is just checking to see if she's in season, just getting a little marker from her. He may, I don't know if he's going to pull his top lip back, but if she was urinating he might, but at the moment he's just checking out, hanging out, trailing these females. Loose family groups, very, very sort of unknown structure in giraffes. A lot of people have got their theories, but as I said, there's not a lot of known. There's not a lot of long studies done on giraffe. Now, it's an interesting thing on the IUCN red elephants are on the. This is really, really cool. These guys are coming so close. Look at this. Hello there. Right, that's about 15, 20 feet in front of me, folks, in front of the vehicle. And that male, beautiful, beautiful. Oh boy, I've got goosebumps, guys. I really do. That male is trailing her. He knows that she's about to come into estrus. He has got... I'm just going to move up a little bit, folks. Just wait for this female to go past as well, because I don't want to cut her off and make her feel vulnerable. So I'll just let her pass across, but we might... Brian, is there a little road that goes down there, mate? I think there is, isn't there? I'm just going to reverse, folks, and see if we can go and just hang out with these guys a little bit more, if that's okay. Very, very relaxed. And he certainly isn't concerned about us. He's only got one thing on his mind. So yeah, just going back to that, the studies of about giraffe, very, very limited amount of information compared to elephant or a lot of the cats. Another 2 over there, 3, 4, 5 we've got here this morning. And I was just talking about the IUCN red list. I mean, elephants are right up there at the top of the list, and giraffe are like a ways down. And I think, just from memory, I haven't looked at it like just before I came, but the last time I looked at it, it said least concern. Now, least concern makes people think that giraffe populations around Africa are nothing to worry about. Well, I've got to tell you the contrary. They are to be worried about, and I don't want to be doom and gloom, that's for sure, when we're sitting in front of these magnificent animals, but it's just a really good note to have in the back of your mind that giraffe populations are nowhere near what people think they are, and it's really, really good just to learn a little bit about it. There's a great organisation called the Giraffe Conservation Foundation, GCF. You can have a look it up online, and the leading giraffe conservation organisation on the planet, and they will give you loads and loads of information about the animals' density across Africa. This is a really great sighting, just to be this close. They're chowing down, doing exactly what they've been designed to do. So if we want to go back in time a little bit, about 30 to 50 million years ago, there was the forefather of the 2 giraffeids that are left on the planet, which are the okapi in Central Africa, the relative of the giraffe, or the cousin of the giraffe. There was a creature called the I think it's Heliditherium it was called, and you know, whatever that word means, it's just to know the name of it really. But it was the forefather. It was about a 3 metre, about 10 feet ancestor of the giraffe, antelope-like creature that used to be right across Europe and Asia. And I think there's about 7 different sort of relatives of that over those millions of years up to today. And we're left with the okapi and the giraffe, the only 2 mammals that are born with horns. And many of these facts you probably already know, and it's just great to sort of see the unique creatures that we'll know a little bit about this unique animal, the only mammal born with horns. Skin-covered horns flatten inwards to their skull when they're born and stand up and fuse to their skull. They're floating actually, and I had the great privilege of hand-rearing a giraffe when I was a zookeeper, and what an experience that was. Okay, we might just move on and see what else. That's a lovely, lovely shot, Brian, just there, the reaching out that full length. Of their neck. Just beautiful. Well, I think these guys are probably going to be around for a bit. We might move on. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's another few just through here, and we'll come back and have a little look at them. They're just moving off into the vegetation now. Lovely light, Brian, just there on those guys. Look at that size of that bull. He's a little ways off, but he's a bull in perfect condition there. He's still got a lot of skin or hair on his horns there. Normally the old bulls, as they get older, you can you can see that they lose the hair on their horns dramatically. Okay, folks, well, I think what we'll do is we'll just tootle along here. I've got to get to know the roads again a little bit as well, so I need your help on that. If I get stuck, I can't quite remember where I am, I need your help. It's so good to be back here. Thank you very, very much for all the support, everyone on Facebook and Twitter, and all the messages that we've got welcoming us back into this incredible team of people. A great privilege. But what I think we should do is go over and have a bit of a talk to Mr. Pretorius. Pieter Pretorius will be coming to you very, very shortly. We're going to drive on.
Well, good morning everyone, and as Hayden said earlier, very warm welcome here to Sabi Sands and to the bush in Africa, and also welcome in the Jigga for the game drive. That's the name of this Land Rover I'm in. And firstly, I just want to say it's great to be here. We're working through a few of the comms issues and things like that. More just me getting used to pressing the right buttons and listening to the right ear. But as always, it's just a massive pleasure and a massive privilege to be here. So thank you for making it possible for all of us and for myself to be here. Looking forward to a beautiful day. As you can see, the sun is rising fast. We've actually been sitting here with VM on camera. VM, always nice to be on the vehicle with you. And of course, all the ladies back in control. Alex as well, Tara, Nikki, everyone. So fantastic to be reunited with the team again. I think I should just take a few seconds and sort of settle into this. We arrived sort of at sunset last night with Graham as well. Hayden, of course, fantastic to be on drive with him again. And just catching up with the crew and catching up with everything going on here. Of course, it's quite dry, so we should have fantastic game viewing over the next few days and weeks. And I'm just excited to be here. For all of you that's been with us maybe for years and many hours of game drives, always nice to have friends in the vehicle. For all of you that's maybe new, maybe it's one of your first game drives, welcome. It's going to be a blast. This is as live as it gets. You can't get it any more alive and wild than this. So looking forward to seeing what we're going to find. Speaking of which, Sammy and Tommy, and I'm sure a few other people as well, picked up last night around 4 o'clock our time, African time. It's actually an interesting statement, African time. I mean, there's a whole thing about, you know, who owns the watch and who has the time. But Central African time, 4 o'clock this morning, they heard a leopard calling somewhere in this area, or sawing, that sound that leopards make. Sounds a bit like this. Like that, just more like a leopard. So we're hoping to find leopard. I believe Steph and Scott and Brent and everyone's been telling us that Karula has been around a bit. So I'm really, as always, crossing my fingers, hoping to see Karula. It's my favorite leopard. Again, if you may be new to this experience, this is a game drive, as any game drive would be on Safari. You can find anything. We can drive for the next 3 hours and see nothing. Well, that's not really true. You never see nothing. I've done thousands and thousands of hours of game drives, and I've never seen nothing. So you always find something. But you could find a leopard right now. We could be sitting here and Karula could pop out there, or a male leopard could come past, or lions or anything. So we're going to look around, but I would absolutely love to find Karula. And as I mentioned, if it's new for you, Karula is the queen of Djuma. She's been called many a time. She's the female leopard that traditionally always had cubs in this area, and there's speculation and hope and belief that there might be a small cub in the area somewhere. So that's something to look forward to. Otherwise, I'm going to stop talking a little bit. Let's drive around, let's look around, let's see what we can find. Here the game drive's just getting active there as well. Texan, head ranger of Djuma, old friend as well. Those other game drives are also out. So I'm just listening there. That's to the north. The other game drives, just like us, they're driving around, looking Luckily I learned to speak English recently, so I should be able to work through this with you. They'll be driving around as well, just as we are, and they'll be looking for everything and anything. So there's other eyes and ears out there as well. Hayden, myself, of course Scott and Brent, Steph, all the guys with great trackers, great experience, they're looking around. And then the other game drives from the other lodges, Voitela, Gallagher and so on. Everyone looking around, working with experienced trackers, and the more eyes, the more ears, the more our chances are of finding game. So that's the name of the game on Safari. Guys, also just a general hello and a shout out to everyone that's been doing the same. I believe there's many people saying hello and welcome back, and Well, thank you so much. Always a great feeling to feel welcome. And I want to extend that same sentiment to the whole crew at the WildEarth camp here at Djuma. It was wonderful coming back last night. There's an amazing vibe in camp. Everyone's excited. There's a real bond that you can feel between people, and to be welcomed right back into that circle is a real pleasure as well. So thank you very much to the WildEarth crew. And I believe we've got a few questions. Remember, if you have questions, you can send them in to us. Hashtag Safari Live. Remember correctly, hashtag Safari Live. Or you can email it to questions@wildearth.tv. And we're going to look at one or two of those questions now as we look around. This is a familiar spot, if not always as dry as it is now. This is Boyatella Dam or Gari Dam, and it's really down to the last sort of, it's not even a puddle of mud now, it's just a little damp spot of mud. And I've seen this waterhole in so many different guises over the years. Lynn, thank you very much, and many other people as well. I believe Twitter's live and chatting. Lynn, just remembering the very first game drive, I was talking to someone last night saying the first few weeks and months we drove around, sort of pretty much around quarantine areas, so how far we've come since then, and so many of you have really been part of that ride from the beginning. So yeah, back in 2007. But this waterhole now at the end of the dry season, and I believe we've had a bit of rain. It's been hot enough, they're predicting 35, 40 degrees Celsius today, which is way over 100 centigrade Fahrenheit. So it's going to get hot today, and it might also mean that we might get some rain in the next few days. Oh, look at that! Sorry, it's not as exciting. Sorry, I've come out of the desert for the last few months, so I just suddenly saw the movement in the mud there. And those are the last of the catfish wiggling their way into the mud. Amazing, these catfish. They sort of wiggle and wangle their way into the mud underneath the dry crust where it's still sort of moist and cool, and they can, I call it hibernate for lack of a better word, but they can sort of go into a comatose state almost, where they can just chill there for up to 2 or 3 years even, until the rain comes again. Hopefully they won't have to wait that long, but they can wait. Hello James, all the way from Kansas City in Missouri. So I'm just really looking around carefully. If we're going to find, well, anything really, but especially the cats, and leopard is what we're looking for now, since you guys heard it calling last night around 4 o'clock. This is the time to do so. Early morning, it's still nice and cool, the sun's low, there's still shadows everywhere to be sort of camouflaged in, and we just have to make sure we don't miss them. Luckily, VM, as I said on camera, he's got some of the best eyes in the business. VM is actually a tracker and spotter who cameras as well. VM, going to find us a leopard this morning. But James, you're just asking Namibia, where I'm from, whether it is experiencing a drought and early summer as well. Well, firstly, James, I presume you know where Namibia is, but for those of you that don't, Namibia is the next country to the north of South Africa on the west coast. It used to be called Southwest Africa, so on the southern, sort of southern or bottom left part of Africa. And it is a desert country. The Namib Desert, after which the country is named, is the oldest desert in the world. I live in that desert at the moment. There's some hyena tracks. So where I live in that sort of the, let's call it the south and western parts of Namibia, is desert anyway. It's got some of the lowest rainfall numbers in the world, meaning it rains once every few years, a few drops. So there it's always dry. But the rest of the country, Namibia, is actually experiencing a drought as well, James. It's hot already. The northern part up towards Etosha National Park was 38, 39 degrees when I left, when was it, the day before yesterday. So yeah, similar conditions to here. I think just we're sometimes more geared for it, and I mean we, the people, but also the the wildlife of the country, because it is more drought prone. It is, even the rest of the country is semi-desert, except the very northern parts, up towards the Okavango Delta, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Big Falls, that side of Namibia, it's obviously higher rainfall, but hot and dry there as well. We're also listening. Always good in the bush to listen. Looking is important, smelling is important, listening is very important. It can tell you things that you can't see. So while we were waiting, while Hayden was doing the opening, and I'll talk more about Hayden just now, we had a good catch up on the way from Johannesburg yesterday on the plane and traveling together, but I know he's very, very happy to be back here. But while he was saying hello to you and getting started, we were just sitting there waiting, looking at the sunrise, but listening, just hearing if there's maybe alarm calls, oxpeckers or mongoose or franklins. Didn't hear anything, so at least the rest of the bush telegraph or the bush newspaper wasn't telling us about something moving around, but it doesn't mean that something isn't moving around. So we're going to keep looking. We'll talk through a few more questions again and see what happens. Old, so he's just turned 1, Ragnar Ngala. It's easy as going, happy as a little boy. And my daughter Sydney, who turned 4 a month ago, who's a real live wire. She's a little firecracker. You'll enjoy meeting her at some stage as well. So yeah, just that's been what we've been up to, and won't lie to you, sort of keeping up to date with what's going on in terms of Djuma side. Always looking forward to getting back here, so very happy to be back in the bush. No leopard tracks yet, but we will keep looking. Couple more hyena tracks here. Hello Ellen. Like so many of you, Ellen's been with us for a long time, so it really is a great joy in getting in the vehicle, knowing that there's so many old friends on the vehicle with us. It's been doing many game drives. So Ellen, as always, nice to have you in the vehicle. So I'm going to keep looking for reverse that side of the gearbox. I've been driving a different kind of Land Rover the last while. Ellen, yeah, I know many again would share that same sentiment. Ellen's just saying Karula's been back. She's a bit more elusive than always. But yes, I surely do hope that we're going to find her and see her in the course of the next few days. Any leopard is a good leopard, but Karula obviously a very special place for many of us. So yes, let's hope. Let's hope and see. Might also get a bit of rain while we're here in the next week or so. It stays this hot. It should be awesome because you get that sort of burst of life after the rain. Oh, let's see if this. Birds are always tricky because they fly. So let's see if this one sticks around. They're quite shy birds, which is there it goes. So we'll try it, Liam. A bit far, but this is really one of my favorite birds anywhere, and one of those birds that always makes me nostalgic or makes me think of the Lowveld. It's called the emerald spotted dove. A little bit far away now, but if you look on the wings, sort of a little bit sort of below halfway down from the shoulder, it's got 2 beautiful spots there. When the light catches it, listen. And that's the call that always just screams bushveld to me. Screams Lowveld, Sabi Sands, Kruger National Park, this part of the world. And this time of the day is such a beautiful part in the bush. Everything's waking up from the night. The nocturnal animals are still settling down for the day, so you have this overlap or crepuscular time when almost everything can and possibly are active. Just all the sounds and the smells and everything is just a little bit heightened. Your own senses pick up a bit as well, because you can feel that this is the equivalent of 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the big city. You know, everything's gearing up or gearing down. Absolutely love the morning drive. So very happy to be out in the morning. Always love the morning drives. Just an open area in front of. We've always, and I'm going to go off on a small tangent now, but this is a warthog in front of Gallagher Camp, and we've always said Gallagher Camp. And Gallagher refers to the bush baby. And the other day I was listening to LiveSafari, which is this new BBC series, which is incredible, all their Planet Earth stuff basically, and amazing stories, and narrated by possibly the best wildlife narrator of all time, Sir David Attenborough. And he was saying Galago. They were talking about Galago, so one was being eaten by something. And I'm sure he wouldn't pronounce that wrong. I just thought, it's so beautiful, Galago. So I might have to start talking about Galago Camp. And but that open area is just a warthog in front of the camp. We will see wildlife there over the next few days. And yeah. Well, I must say, great to be back in the seat. Great to sort of break the ice. Oh, awesome. And as I was saying, just to be back in the seat is great. To have the ice broken, you know, always the first drive, you just have to get back into the swing of things, but it makes it so much easier and makes it so much more fun just to get back into it, because I know that we've got great friends on the vehicle. So a big thank you again for all of you that make us feel so welcome here, and for all of you that make us, enable us to do this. And we're going to find some game. As I said, we heard leopard earlier this morning. We've got Scott and the guys out looking for them, and they found some signs, so enjoy what they've got to show you, and let's see what the morning brings. Nice to have you here.
Well, good morning everyone, and welcome to the Bushwalk. We've got some very, very exciting news, and we're not going to keep you too long, so take a closer look here. If you look in this area where I'm circling here, you will see the back pad and the 1, 2, 3, 4 toes of a big male leopard. Then right over here, not far away at all, there's a much smaller track. Again, the back lobe, the 1, 2, 3, 4 toes of a female. And these two leopards were walking together side by side. Well, actually, the female at this stage was in front of the male. I can see that because some of his tracks are on top of hers, heading down this road towards Buffels Hook Dam. So Brent and the tracking team have looped around, and we're going to continue following these tracks and hopefully find this pair of leopard. There's a strong chance they could be mating, which will be great for us because we'll be able to hear them copulating about every 15 to 20 minutes. It's quite a loud affair, and hopefully that will also help us lead them closer to the animals. For those of you who haven't met me, my name's Scott, but it's so exciting that we're going to continue down this road in search of these animals, and we're going to send you back onto the vehicle so we can focus, creeping ahead, being as stealthy as we can on the trail of these leopards. We'll see you a little bit later.
Well, one of my favourite spots we've just come down off, a place called Impala Plains, and it's always a great favourite spot of Brian and mine. We used to sit there in the afternoons and watch the sunset, and it was fantastic. And just came around the corner here, and two young male elephants just browsing away in this beautiful morning light. It's a really, really great thing. This light is just so perfect, and these boys were just... I'm just going to reposition the vehicle for Brian a little bit here. Sorry, my friends, it's okay. Just young boys here. I don't know, they might be part of a bigger group. I can't really see, the vegetation's a bit thick through there, but Brian was telling me they had a nice rain here in early September, but nothing since. But it's put a really beautiful big green flush. Hello, my boy. It's okay, buddy. A little bit unconfident, these boys at this age. Just moving through there. It's okay, buddy. Easy, boy. I'll just swap myself around and give Brian a better angle here. It's a bit hard to shoot back. There's that sound. Scotty told me about that. Yeah, they've moved off. Those boys, just when they're by themselves, two of them, they've been pushed out of the breeding herd, and it looks like anyway, but then again, I don't know. They could be trailing a breeding herd as well. But eventually those males will be pushed out of that herd and start to either become part of a bachelor group, more than likely. We'll just keep our eyes open. There might be a few more up here. Oh, what a pleasure to be back, folks. It's an incredible place, this planet. When you think, 36 hours ago I was in London. I reside in the UK. It's a long story there too, which I'll share with you over the coming week. And I have a beautiful son and a beautiful wife there. And it's a little bit different to here, that's for sure, but still a great place nonetheless. And how lucky we are to be able to come down and share this beautiful part of Africa. Now, there's word. It's really important. The guys, particularly the guys on our team, but all the guides on Sabi Sands are just incredible. It's a really lovely thing to be able to just glean information from these incredible guides, and I learn something constantly. And it's just a really lovely thing to hear their feet on the ground and know what they know. And last night I think Steph was telling us that they saw wild dog tracks up here. And folks, I have to share some of my favourites with you. Wild dog are definitely one of those creatures, one of those animals that I have a very, very strong love of. And it's one of those creatures as well that, tracking wise, they're on the move so much. You normally drive onto them or just startled, or they startle you by coming around a corner, walking down a road. And I just wanted to just trickle around here, tootle around, get to know the roads again, see what we can find. But elephant, giraffe, beautiful start. And there's much more to come. Just got a message through from George Ann in Illinois. George Ann, thank you so much. Great to have you on board. And you're asking about my boy, which is always one of those things that's very, very close to my heart, as you can imagine. My son Jack, George Ann, is doing very, very well. He's just turned 9, and he's on his game. He's a fantastic little chap. He's coming out here with me in December. And he's going to have this experience, so I'm very, very excited about that. The last time he was on safari, he was 3, and there's a really, really funny little video clip I put on my Facebook page. If you want to go and have a look, of him seeing his first couple of animals in a waterhole in Etosha, and I ask him, what can you see, mate? What can you see? And he says, and a bee flies in the car and flies onto the window, and he says, I can see a bee, right here, and he's so excited he can hardly speak. So it's a quite little clip if you want to have a go and have a look at that. But he's grown a lot since then. From 6 years it's been since he's been in Africa proper. So I'm really looking forward to getting him down here at the end of Big Cat Week and having a little safari with my wife and my son. But thank you very much, Georgianne, and great to have you on board. Just scanning around. So we've got a couple of questions about, there's a funny little story here, folks, that I'd like to just share with you. I'll just stop for a second. And Brian knows this story very well. Many of you have probably know it as well. I'm just going to ask, there's a couple of people from Illinois, and I missed who the names were, but I'll get them just now. There's a few people asking about this, and this is a very, very interesting little piece of luck. So Linda and Peggy from Illinois, I do apologise, the vehicle, I couldn't hear your question, but this little lucky quill here is something that Brian and I and VM and Pete found many moons back, and about a year ago nearly to this day, Brian, hey? Yeah. And I've carried it and carried it and carried it, and it's just a little bit of fun. But one of the things is, the Big Cat Week that we had last year, this quill started to gain status from the luck that we had with, I remember it vividly, Konuma walking right into shot of our first broadcast on Big Cat Week and sat in the tree behind us as we went to the fireside chat. So ever since, this lucky quill has travelled with me, and I bring it every time. Mr. Pretorius and VM. Fantastic. So that's the lucky quill story, and we still carry it. Hello, my friend.
Dr. Livingston, I presume.
How are you? VM, how are you, mate? Great, great, great. We just
another lucky quill.
Well, no, I brought it with me.
Same one.
Same one.
Very good.
So I just was telling give it a rub. Give it a rub, big fella.
Here we go.
So you never know what luck that'll bring us, folks, but how wonderful it is to be back, mate, hey?
Oh, it's amazing, huh? We just took a few minutes while you were opening, sitting in front there, literally watching the sunrise and the birds calling, and yeah, I mean, as everyone knows, it's awesome to be back. So.
Oh, it's just beautiful, mate. It's just beautiful. And we saw giraffe. I got some young ellies just down here.
Okay, cool.
You were on some tracks of leopard.
Scott and them had some leopard track, so I've just sort of been up that side a bit and looking around and seeing what pops up. Just enjoying the morning, enjoying the last bit of cool. I can feel it.
You certainly.
By the second getting warmer. So.
Yeah. So when we started, it was 29 and I think 78, Brian, or something like that. 29 degrees Celsius, about 78 Fahrenheit, and you can feel that climbing right now.
Yeah, it's going to get nice.
26.79. That's right. Sorry. The temperature rises, and the guys are warning us. It's supposed to be, what was it, Brian? 44 degrees Celsius today.
Lovely.
104 Fahrenheit.
104 Fahrenheit, folks. Yeah, we're going to be feeling that, mate, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I see Brian's still got his jacket on. That's a good sign that it's still cool at the moment. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go
We'll see you.
Yeah,
good luck.
Sure.
Good luck. It's great to be back, isn't it? Fantastic stuff. All right. See what's around the next corner, big man. Take care.
You guys know.
Ah, it's lovely. Lovely stuff. So yes, that was a lucky quill story, folks. And it'll sit here just with us. It's just a bit of fun, really. We give it a bit of a rub. And there were some fantastic people that I think gave it its own Facebook page, and all of you wonderful people that have done that. It's just great fun. You've got to have a bit of fun in life, that's for sure. And we certainly do that down here on Safari Live. So if you have just joined us and it's your first drive with us, or you're a regular participant on the biggest safari vehicle on the planet, you can contact us or interact with us on Twitter by #SafariLive, or you can email us at questions@wildearth.tv and get in contact with us there. Two different ways you can do it, and we'll try and answer as many questions as we possibly can. And, you know, as I said, I really do mean it. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. We're going to try and find it happening again, but just while we were on with Pieter or Scott, we had some impala doing this wonderful high jumping that they do, and Brian and I had a great encounter up there on Impala Plains many moons ago with these impala lambs doing it, and some of the young sub-adults were just doing it then. If we see it again, we'll point it out. It's such a beautiful display to watch. Got a question from Heidi in North Carolina, and the reason I'm butting off here, folks, is just it's nicer to talk to you and look down the barrel of the camera and connect with you wherever you are in the world, rather than just looking all the time ahead. Heidi in North Carolina. Hi Heidi, fantastic to have you on board, and thank you so much for the beautiful welcome that you've given and welcoming us back. Heidi wants to know, I do a fair few safaris in Namibia as well, and wants to know if the concentrations of elephants are greater over there. That's the first half of your question, and the other half was, is it got to do with water availability? Well, there's so many contributing factors to elephant populations, Heidi, across Africa. Habitat loss is an incredibly important one, or corridors that the elephants used to move through. The elephants in Namibia behave slightly differently to other parts of Africa because it is a much more arid, predominantly arid environment. You will find that they do travel greater distances to water sources, and there's a lot of sort of spark or talk about there's a subspecies, the desert elephant. Look, I can't really tell you what the latest research is, but I think that the research that I've read is the elephants in the desert have a very great handover from their a parental handover or a herd philosophy or teaching, that they have to be shown where those water sources are because they have to rely on them a lot more. In parts of where we are here in Djuma and Sabi Sands, there's a lot more water than there is in Namibia, and you'll find that probably the concentrations here are greater than they are in Namibia. When you do see big herds in Namibia, it's an eye-opener, that's for sure. One of the things you do really notice is really big elephants. We get really big elephants here in South Africa as well, that's for sure. But you see them covered in, particularly in Etosha, where there's a very white sort of clay soil there, and the animals look very light grey. They're quite stunning on the landscape. But yes, the concentrations, I would say, are greater here in South Africa than they are in Namibia. But fantastic question, and thank you very much, Heidi. Welcome back to you, and great to talk to you. We're just going to motor on up here. Sandy Patch, this area is going to be probably teeming in the next couple of months with young impala, which in turn brings a lot of predators. We see it's a great area for, there's a nice smell there. Smell like, not sure what that was, but that was a predator smell. we just got to... I'm just driving around here and I'm hearing sort of those quintessential African bird sounds in the morning. Some squirrels and big alarm calls just back there. So let's just sit here for a second, folks. Just while we're sitting here and Brian's having a little scan around. Just smell to sort of an odd smell back there. Real sort of, I don't know whether it was feces or just what, but predator-like smell. Anyway, we'll just have a little scan around here. Just got a message. I think it was from James and Mike. And it was about a bird list that we started back in November. And I was sort of suggesting to people to start a bird list. It's a great thing. You know, people who don't know me, I probably should share this with you now. I love my gadgets. I love my sort of tablets and different apps you can get on these, and I use different apps on all these different things, which we'll probably have a talk about later on a bit more. But instead of carrying loads of books, and please don't ever think that I don't love books, but sometimes when you're traveling abroad all the time, you've got a stack of books this high, it can be a bit tricky. So you can get a lot of books that are in electronic forms, e-books, particularly a wonderful couple of different bird guides, and it allows you to create a list. And we started talking about it last November, and you know, I think I probably had about 30 or 40 on it by the time we finished Big Cat Week last December. And I think it's James and Mike have just contacted us and said since then they started that, they've amassed 217 different species through all these wonderful guides and all these wonderful sightings. So hats off to you guys, because birds are incredibly important, just as important as all the other creatures we have here, and you see them a lot. And I have to get my head around some of the species as well again. I do have to level with you. 1 minute or 1 week I can be over in Malaysia, and the next week I'm teaching in England with bird species in England. And as you get older, your memory starts to not be as functional as it used to be. So if I do stop and look at a bird and I can't quite remember the name of the species, please help me, and we'll work through it together. But I do have a bit of a giggle with that sometimes, because it is, you know, I'm working in lots of different countries, and it's just a matter of, it's a bit like a language, and if you don't use it, you lose it, and it's a great thing just to get familiar again. It's the calls as well, and you know, Brent and James and Steph and Scott and Jamie as well. You know, all of the guides that we've got here are so incredible on their knowledge, and I learn from them constantly. It's really great to. So I knew Scott last time, and I knew Steph, and I've just met James. I had a great night out in London with James recently, which was just fantastic. I love this planet. I love this world. And meet each other outside of our normal space.
Going on there, I believe some squirrels alarm calling. Now that might of course mean an eagle that we don't see, or a snake in the grass, but in Sabi Sands, especially where we are, there's always the possibility of a leopard when anything's alarm calling. They're going to keep looking, signal breaking up a little bit. Maybe just to explain that to some of you, if it's one of your first drives with us, obviously for this to be live and happening as we speak, there's a few things, and I'm greatly understating it by using the word few, sort of a few things that need to happen between the leopard jumping out of the tree or the sun rising and you sharing it with us. So there are some breakups and little signal losses sometimes, but that's all part of the experience. We're on one of the big roads, as you can see, heading, as you can probably see as well, straight into the sun, straight east. We're making our way up towards Buffelshoek Dam, the area that Scott and Brent and Steph and them were in earlier. And also just a good road to check. It is one of the mainer roads, if you want it. It sort of gives access to some of the lodges in the area. And these roads are great for seeing or for looking for tracks. It's nice and sandy. There's some elephant tracks crossing in, some elephant tracks crossing out. So we're just seeing what's around, but essentially making our way up towards Buffelshoek Dam. is now almost 6:30 Central African time. The sun's been up for about 45 minutes and getting warmer as we speak. So the waterholes, those that still have water in them, great place to check for any activity. It's nice to listen to the radio. I've been listening to the game drives. Many of the guys on the radio, old friends of mine, Ephraim, Texan, who many of you know as well, Aubrey, lots of people out there enjoying the morning with us. Beautiful green flush. Just look into a bit of backlight from the sun, you can see it beautifully, but even though it hasn't rained that much, keep in mind most trees actually respond to the length of the day. So look at these ones, beautiful green, sort of early spring or early summer flush. Now again, for those of you that know me well, I've never been a guy that learns all the Latin names and all the sort of scientific aspects of things, but the first tree that I ever learned the Latin name of was this tree, which is called a red bush willow. Let me show you. I find Latin names or scientific names interesting, firstly if I can remember them, which is one of the things, but if they explain something quite obvious. Now if you get closer to this VM, I'll try and hold it as still as possible. This is called a red bush willow, or a combretum is the family. Now combretums, we get many different kinds of. They all have these winged fruits, which we'll see later in summer. But this specific one, if you look right at the tip of the leaf, let me pick this one as maybe better view. You see right there at the very tip of the leaf, or at the apex of the leaf, it makes a little pointy bit that points up. You see that little right there. Now this is called a combretum, as I said, the family name, Combretum apiculatum, because the apex apiculatum is quite specific. And this means that even though it's not raining yet, there's a lot of new food available, especially to your browsers. So you'll start seeing elephant eating a lot of leaves and twigs, kudu, giraffe, all your animals that eat leaves, your browsers. That's a good sign for them. For the grass, you need rain. So the grazers, things like zebra and buffalo, they will be hoping for more rain, because that affects their food directly. But otherwise, really starting to look like summer around us. Beautiful time of the year. Some antelope. For those of you from North America, USA, Canada and so on, you might be familiar with white-tailed deer. These would be sort of the ecological equivalent, if you want, of white-tailed deer in certain parts of Africa. If you go to the more desert areas, you find springbuck, but the sort of more savanna and bushveld like we have here, you get impala, which is one of the most numerous antelope species. Well, not one of, they are by far the most numerous antelope species out there. Medium size, this is a nice big male. We see, where are we now? It's October, so it's a few months ago that it was the rut, so they've passed the rutting season now, so you'll find them in bachelor groups. In good condition. Also, one of the reasons why they are so numerous is they're in that sort of niche where they can utilize various aspects of their surroundings. And what I mean with that is giraffe have to eat leaves. So giraffe would struggle if there's no trees or no leaves, and zebra have to eat grass. So if there's no grass, then zebra would struggle. Impala, they've adapted to be mixed feeders, so they can eat grass, twigs, leaves, anything really, just depending on what's going at the time, what's at the top of the menu for them. So they've adapted greatly to sort of varying circumstances or varying conditions around them. They're also what's generally referred to as a buffer species. Pretty much just meaning that because there's so many of them, again, they get preyed on as well by many things. So they're in the size where leopard can hunt them, cheetah, wild dog, lion. So in a way, by being so many, they also take the pressure, if you want, off some of the other species in terms of being prey. Guys, just once again a big thank you. As I said earlier, it's such a great feeling to really feel welcomed back by everyone that's part of this experience. So thank you so much for all the messages coming in. Tara, Nikki and them in control in letting us know there's loads of messages coming in. Lovely elephant. And while we get to the elephant, we're going to be sitting with him for a
So I went into a little bit of a dodgy signal area before there, and I'm just getting to know those. There's always those little gremlins around, folks, where there's places where our signal's not fantastic. But you know what? You've stuck with us for a very, very long time. You know that. This is coming live to you from the back of a Land Rover here in Sabi Sands in South Africa. And you have those little hiccups now and again. That's all part of it. It's live. So I'm just going to head down to Buffelshoek Dam now. I haven't been there for a while, and it's one of the only places that's got a bit of water on at the moment. We might see some elephant, but meanwhile, I think a mate of mine's got some elephant with him as well. I'll see you just now.
Guys, well, some lovely elephant. Looks like two bulls here. We're going to sit with them for a little bit. It's quite thick bush, so we'll see how good the visual is. But just before we broke up there, Lisa and Selby, as I was saying, great to have you guys on the drive. So many of you that have been growing with us over the years in this experience and have really formed a part of the family. And Lisa was just saying, and this illustrated beautifully, that Selby, her daughter, was 9 when they started joining us for the first drives. I remember you guys way back then. And Selby is now studying biology, first year at college. And Lisa was just saying thank you for the influence everyone has had in this experience. You mentioned Leishan's name there as well, and myself, as I said, for years we've known you guys. So it's beautiful to hear that we could have played some small role in someone studying and learning and going into this direction of I was going to say knowing nature, but more just loving nature, being passionate about it. So great to hear that. And Selby, good luck with your studies. Hope to see you down here in Africa at some stage. Oh, brilliant. He's going to come say hello to us. So I've been away for a few months. What is this again?
The big black?
Yes, the big thing with the funny nose.
I'm not really sure.
I thought it was Hayden Brody there for a minute. Oh, no, it's just kidding. Guys, I love elephant. Really, really. On how many levels do you love elephant? They're just, firstly, just such amazingly intelligent, sensitive, curious, bright animals. And obviously, they're the biggest land animals as well, so they do tend to stand out. But over the years, I've really grown very fond of elephant, and always amazing to spend time with them. It looks like a little herd. I thought it was just 2 bulls when we arrived, but I see a young one walking in the back there. You probably saw it as well. And VM and all the guys have been saying the elephants have been plenty. Now again, just to sort of put it into perspective for you, we are going into our summer, so the opposite, if you want, of the northern hemisphere, where you guys are now going towards your autumn and winter. We are going into summer, which is why we've got this beautiful flush of greenery. But as always, before the big rains come, the driest part really is the is not so much winter, but the spring, early summer parts before the rains come. So the waterholes become very attractive. And considering we had a drought last year, there's some magic gorry in the foreground there, those sort of crinkle cut leaves. Just move a little bit. So this part just before the rains come, it's very hot. The waterholes are all dry or mostly dry. So the waterholes that do have water in them, in this case, Gowrie waterhole, the pan there close to the camp, Buffelshoek Dam, they become very, very attractive to elephants especially. They need to drink water if possible once a day, twice a day if possible. So we're going to be seeing, touch wood, lots of ellies over the next while. I'm just not sure if we're going to be seeing too much more of these specific elephants, because there's quite a lot of bush here and I don't want to barge in there when they've got youngsters with them. So I don't want to hammer on about it, but that message is now from Lisa regarding Shelby that's now studying biology. That's really cool. Thank you for letting us know that firstly, and yeah, it's just awesome. It really is. How we can share our wonderful world. It's amazing. One of the most amazing predators, also one of the smallest predators out here, and I'm talking in the mammal world. Obviously there's lots of smaller ones in the insect world. I just saw some dwarf mongoose there in the distance. We're just going to see if we can see some more of them. Also there's a bit of a clearing here, so we'll sit here and if the mongoose are entertaining, we'll watch them for a bit and hopefully those ellies will come through. Of course, the other really exciting part about this Wild Earth game drive experience, apart from the fact that you're here with us, is that you've got the ability to jump between different places. So if Hayden finds something, or Scott and Brent and Steph and the guys on tracking find something, we'll go there. But for now, look at that little guy just peeking at us right there. See him, Willem? Just there. Where my finger is. Where my finger is. Willem? By my finger's punt. Let me get. So just go to this. There.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Got him. Yeah.
See there?
Yeah.
It's got a little hollow log there to hide in. Guys, to put this into perspective for you, that log is probably about a foot and a half tall or thick. And the dwarf mongoose, as you might have guessed from the name, is one of the smallest of mongoose species, but they fascinating little animals. They live in very tightly knit groups or units, really working together not only to find food but to keep an eye out for predators, raising the youngsters. Fantastic little animals, and just obviously right up there with the best of them when it comes to the cute scale. Here's another one coming in. Hey guys, well, as I said, you've got the ability to jump to different places, so there might be something else happening on one of the other places. We'll see what goes on just now. Awesome. Just hearing that Scott's got something there. Now, just coming back to these mongoose very quickly, is they help each other look around. So one mongoose is checking for eagles or snakes while the others run around, and if they find something, they shout. They go, hey, there's something here. And Scott has got some franklins, birds that operate in a similar way, busy calling at the moment. So let's see what they've got, and we'll see you back this side again a bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And things have been quite exciting here on the bushwalk. We haven't been able to keep on the exact tracks of that mating pair of leopard. It seems like they could well have split up, so they maybe were not mating. They were just possibly spending some time together. But we've left Brent and the tracking team on the tracks of the male. It appears like he went and had a drink at Buffelshoek Waterhole. And we're still in the general area, and we've heard squirrels alarm calling and then Franklin's alarm calling. The Franklins may be having a dispute with one another, hard to tell, but the squirrel may have definitely seen a predator. So we just thought we'd call you into this area to see if we can find whatever is causing this unrest in the general area. Sadly, though, as you guys arrived, the Franklin has stopped alarm calling. So it's not to say there isn't potentially still a threat here, threat to those Franklin. So let's keep creeping ahead and see if we can find anything, but we just thought it would also be useful to give you an update on those leopard tracks. It's an incredibly difficult business following tracks of animals through the bush. I mean, even though we're walking through along a game trail here, it's not easy to see each and individual footprints of these animals as they go through. At least it isn't for myself. It's a lot easier for specialist trackers, of which we have 2 coming to join our team today. And to give you an idea of how difficult it is exactly to see tracks, I've just seen a hyena track here on the ground. So tell me if you can see anything in this area. Not easy, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 toes in the back pad of a hyena. Not much to see there on these little pathways, but that kind of will give you an idea of how tricky it is. And this is one of the easier game trails that we are following in terms of seeing tracks. It's also easiest at this time of the morning when the sun from a very low angle is casting its lights and creating shadows on the tracks. You may be wondering what this little sock is in my hand, and it's filled with ash. This will give you a good idea of how still the wind is today. Not much of a breeze at all, but if anything, it's blowing very gently into our faces, which is possibly a good thing and possibly a bad thing, depending on the area you're in and the potential animal that you could bump into. Sometimes it can be useful that animals smell you before they see you, and therefore they can expect your arrival. On the other hand, some animals would prefer to not expect your arrival and not know that you're there at all. So it does depend on the individual animal, but useful to definitely know which way the wind is blowing when on foot. We try and keep as quiet and as stealthy as possible. And because we had quite a hasty intro into the bushwalk this morning, I didn't let you know that Gendre is the cameraman on the bushwalk. He's got a big backpack on his back with an antenna sticking up, probably about 4 meters, 3.5 meters off the ground. So he has to negotiate with that. The backpack itself weighs about 20 pounds. And it's not just a 2-man team. We also have Stefan with us, very close behind Gendre. Maybe Gendre can give you a quick squiz of Stefan. And Stefan is here from a safety point of view, and he's an incredibly experienced trails guide. He's got many, many more years on foot than myself, so it's hugely reassuring to have him with us. And you would have noticed he is carrying a rifle. It's just there as a last measure precaution. The chances of using it are extremely slim, but it's very useful to have here just in case. And we've just got a funny comment through from Kachino John saying, if we see any footprints of what looks like a Bigfoot or a Yeti, that would be Brent, so don't be confused. And you're exactly right, Kachino John. He's got monstrous feet. And I'm told that it's actually quite difficult for him to find shoes that fit those feet of his. Myself, on the other hand, is a little bit different. I've got tiny little feet. I doubt you'll be able to hear it, but there are some hyena calling. Possibly somewhere around Buffelshoek Dam. And we're not far from there, so we're going to speed it up, get into that area, and see if we can find you these hyena. And while we do that, we're going to send you back to Pieter. It's been great having you on the bushwalk, and wish us luck. Hopefully we'll find you those leopards, either us or Brent, who's out on the tracking team. See you later.
Guys, what a great way to spend time in the bush. On foot has always been a... how shall I put it? It really just wakes up your senses a little bit more. It makes you more in tune with things. It puts you more on the ground, literally, with everything around you. So I'm sure you enjoyed the sort of bit of behind the scenes, if you want, from Scott there as well, just explaining some of the things you carry around with you. Some of the things are as old as the earliest bushman hunters when it comes to gauging wind direction. Some of the things are maybe a little bit newer, like having a live broadcast. But being on foot in the bush is just a very special experience. And as you have in the past and as you will in the future with us, you'll have many great moments with being on foot in the bush. Scott and them are following up. Ahina's calling there a bit. As we said a few times this morning already, this first hour or so of the day, 2 hours of the morning, really is, especially in this time of year when it's really hot, very, very special time to be out here. We've left those mongoose. They were doing their thing. By the way, let's get a few ideas from, not some ideas, some feedback from some of you guys. Remember, you can communicate with us via Twitter, #SafariLive, or just email it to questions@wildearth.tv. But speaking of the mongoose, what's the plural of mongoose? One mongoose, many. But we left them behind, and we're heading towards Gari Dam, or shall I say Gari Pond at the moment. I believe we might have something a little bit bigger than mongooses, monkeys, mongai to view there. Let's go have a look. So many people we'd love to say hi to directly, but Molly, Karen, Diana saying they've been watching those Ellies at the waterhole already a bit. Guys, once again, great to be back with you on the vehicle. And yeah, so I was thinking three things all at once there, but we'll be there in the next few minutes, so hopefully something big on the menu for us to have a look at. So happy to be back. You know, so many people when you get back here obviously welcome you back, which is a great feeling, but also just ask you, how are you doing and what's been happening and how are you, how are you feeling and travels and all that. I always feel happy when I come back. Djuma really is a home for me in many, many ways. So whenever I'm back here, I'm just happy. Why I'm thinking about that is, this morning we could see no big animals and I'd still be stoked, just to be back here, to smell the low-feld air, to drive in the Jigger, again, this Land Rover that I've spent many, many hours in. So everything we see is just a big bonus. And I think a large part of this, a very large part of this, more than the elephants, more than the leopard, more than the smell and the sound and the sights of sunrise, it's just to be back in the vehicle with all of you. And little monkey darted across the road there. There's so many of the names we've mentioned this morning already. We've spent so many hours together in the bush. So I miss that. I miss having the greatest guest in the world on the vehicle with us. I miss having the best people in the world to share this with. I've spoken about this in the past, and we'll talk about it somewhere in the future again, more than once, I'm sure. But it's such a privilege, such a pleasure to be able to take fantastic people on Game Drive. And not just people, but people that you've known for a long time. So I must just say thank you again to all of you. We really make this what it is. almost there. Juma Dam or Gari Dam or Boyatilla Dam, we still use different names for it sometimes, but Juma Dam, Diana from the UK, got a few different Dianas on Game Drive at the moment. Hello Diana, just asking some of the history behind Juma Dam, if I know when it was built. I don't actually. I presume in probably the 80s or 90s, something like that. I'll ask Gary when I see him again. A lot of the waterholes here are quite old, meaning they've been made a long time ago. And they've also settled in nicely as purely natural waterholes, meaning the plant growth and the tree growth around it. At the moment, and for the next few weeks at least, up until it rains again, Diana, the waterhole itself is drying up. We started this morning early, we had a look at it, some of those catfish sort of just wriggling around in the mud. So there's a pond really that's got water being pumped into it. Now this is hugely valuable, not only for us that want to see animals, because obviously it attract animals, but also for the animals themselves. Elephant, antelope, everything. They would all come here for water. And also because it's nice fresh water. Obviously being pumped, it's nice and clean. The more natural waterholes would be very muddy by now. So you're going to find a lot of game here and a lot of elephant. Elephants love clean water. All animals love clean water, but elephants especially. Let's just see, I believe they're moving away a little bit. Let's see where to and what they're up to. Oh, there we can see them. So yeah, Diana, we're coming up now. I'll show you guys as well, if maybe just joined us in the last few minutes. There you can see Ellie's in the distance. We'll have a quick stop here at the waterhole first. And then we'll catch up with those elephants. Just have a look here. Now this is the spot where we will see many different animals over the next days and weeks. You can see no wind this morning. The mirror image of the water. And just lots of bird life. Mainly doves and grey lories or go-away birds. A few butterflies. Little drongo just skimming across the water there. Excuse me. But yes, you will see this again, I guarantee you, in the next few days. Let's go and catch up to those Ellies. Way down. Now, over the years, one builds up memories, and certain of them stick around. I'll never forget at this pan when Lishan, who was visiting me the first time then after, it's a long story, but I hadn't seen her in 16 years and she came to visit me. Lishan is now my wife and the mother of our kids, of our son and daughter. But this pan was similar to now, very, very dry. No waterholes had water in except for this. It was great for wildlife. And the vehicles were down. We didn't have a game drive, so we had what we call the Babaloo, old Series 3 Land Rover, and the waterhole camera was running. So we drove out here and the waterhole was live, and I was photographing an elephant lying on my belly in front of an Ellie. Wonky was one of them, two other Ellies around. My SD card was full, so I was taking these pictures of an elephant about literally 15 feet away, cleaning the images, taking pictures again. Lishan sitting there thinking, what's going on? Many of you would remember if you were with us already back then. Lisa and Karen and Diana, many of you that were here back then. Long story, but whenever I think of that pond, I often think of that day. And always incredible how the biggest animals on land can just disappear. Seconds ago they were here, they just walked into the stick stuff. Hello Dave. Let's tell the experience in this vehicle as well. Again, many of you have seen these animals so many times and their behavior. And that's really what tracking is about, you know. Tracking has got so many aspects to it. Actually, the physical tracks, the sounds you can hear, the story being put together, but also often just using good common sense. You don't need to grow up in Africa and live in the bush every day of your life to have good common sense. And that's really what you need to be a good tracker. Dave was saying it looks like they're heading up to Mvubu Road. This is the road we are now. Mvubu, just for interstate, means hippo in Shangaan or in Tsonga. hippos use this road a lot when the dam has got water in it. And a couple other people also mentioning maybe heading up towards Gallego Dam or Gallego Dam. And most likely is what they are up to. We're going to go around slowly and see if we can catch up with them again. I think they're probably going there for the clean water. Slowly move around, catch up with these ellies again, hopefully. And also keep in mind, this is where early this morning a leopard was heard calling, so there could still be something dappled moving around here. But while we're talking of predators, many different things are catching many different things to eat, and Hayden's going to show you probably one of the most beautiful and striking birds anywhere in the world busy doing what they're doing. So enjoy that, and we'll see you back here a little bit later again.
Well, I've come up to one of my favourite dams on Djuma, Buffelshoek Dam here, and it's always great to just come up and see what's here. And you know, if there's no mammals, there's always going to be birds, and as I said, just as important, really, really beautiful species on this dam. And at the moment we're looking at one of my favourites, saddlebill storks. There's a pair here, and they're hunting, fishing, feeding, whatever you'd like to call it, both just wading out in the shallows there of the edge of the dam. We've got the one that's in your shot at the moment is the female, and the female is the one that's got that striking yellow eye. The male's got a brown eye. Oh, it's just caught that fish there. That's fantastic. Nice little fish. Beautiful, beautiful bird. They get up to about 150 centimetres tall, which in inches, that's what, about, goodness Brian, you have to do some maths with me now. 150. I'll have to do some maths there for you. I should have that really, really quickly for you. But just concentrating on them catching fish there at the moment. You can see he's got another one in his mouth. She has, sorry. Fantastic. And they weigh up to about 7 kilograms, which is about 10, 12 pound, a little bit more maybe. But an extraordinary, beautiful fish he's got there. A little bit bigger than the last one. Really beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous bird. They don't make a lot of noise, these birds, either. They sort of do a little bit of a bill clapping sort of sound when they're displaying and mating, but other than that, they're pretty silent. Just striking markings, and obviously if I was to try and get a little bit closer, they'll probably take off, but they're just a stunning, stunning bird. Got a beautiful sort of yellow wattle. It's sort of not. It's sort of much more apparent on the male than the female. It's absent on the female, but it's a beautiful, beautiful bird. That the silhouettes also give you a great little sense of the calmness and the tranquility here where we are. There's a lot of other different species around, more common birds that we see a lot, but you never can give them a cursory glance. There's Egyptian geese up towards the back there, a little bit out of shot at the moment, but we just want to stay with these beautiful, beautiful birds, and there's lots of different species sounding off in the background. Cape turtle dove, really beautiful, quintessential African sound, and for me those sounds are what makes up the African bush. Those ones that we sort of drive past a lot, those birds, but as I said, you can't really give them a cursory glance because they are stunning creatures and make up this intricate ecosystem that we're in right now. We've got a question from Jessica in Ohio. Jessica, welcome aboard and great to have you with us. Jessica wants to know, it's a great question, what's the most common or the most prolific bird that we have here in Sabi Sands or in Djuma as well? And you know what, I'm going to put that out to you, everyone, to everyone watching now. You watch this really, really regularly, and as I said, I'm in all different parts of the world, and I watch Safari Live as much as I possibly can to keep up to speed with the cats and everything that's going on and all the team. But you know what, I'm going to ask everyone what you think. Tweet us at #SafariLive or email us at questions@wildearth.tv and let us know what you think the most common or prolific species is, and what you see most of on drive. And it'd be great to hear your opinions. I've got mine, but I really want to hear from you first and see what you come up with. Great question. Thank you very much for your wonderful question there. So there's a vehicle coming down now, folks, another safari vehicle, and the stalks are just starting to move away from the water a little bit. They are a little bit skittish, but they're okay. They move around the other side of the water. But what we're going to do now is cross over to Pete, and we'll come back. I'll drive around, have a little bit more of a look. Great to be here, as I said, folks. Let's see what Pete's up to.
Sorry, I almost got caught by a spider web there. Well, as I said, one of the most beautiful birds anywhere in the world, saddlebill storks. The name is quite self-explanatory, but just stunning to see them. And I believe you saw a kill, or them catching food. Maybe that's a better way to say it. This time now, when the waterholes are getting that low, your big storks, marabous, when we see them here, fish eagles and so on, they have great opportunity to catch catfish. And who knows, we might even be lucky enough to see that from leopard would do the same thing, especially young leopard if they're desperate for food. You can get into the mud and find something to eat there. We're back at the open area here in Gallego camp. Hayden, I believe, was just telling you a little bit about these waterholes that are, that obviously when it gets very dry we add water to. And again, like with the previous pond down in front of Boyatela Lodge, we will see many animal at and around these waterholes over the next days, but not right this moment. As if you were wondering, yes, I am driving around in a circle. We fresh elephant dung there. Lots of moisture in it, all the insects immediately flocking to the dung just for the moisture. So I was listening to two channels there at once, the games I was also talking. Georgia just asking, out of Illinois I believe, if all the years at Djuma for me, over time I've noticed a change or an increase or decrease in tuskless elephants. Georgia, I can't really say that I have. Mainly just because obviously there's certain elephants around here that we get to know. I mean, the most famous of that would be Wonky, that bull elephant that died some years ago. Elephants! Speaking of them. Oh, and a tiny one, look at that. Tiny, tiny baby. Georgia, I can't really say I've noticed increase or decrease in that. The elephants coming through here, we see certain ones often, but then other ones come and go quite a lot. So, especially this time of year when it's this dry and the water is a big attraction, we'll see elephants that we've maybe never seen before. They've got massive home ranges. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. A bit closer again. I believe this is a herd that you've been seeing quite a bit over the last few weeks. And that youngster, I was going to guess it about 2 months old, but again, you've been seeing it quite a bit, so maybe even younger than that. It's pretty much a new addition to the world. And then again, all small animals, well, let's say all small mammals generally are very cute to see, but with elephants being such intelligent animals and such sensitive animals, it really is beautiful to observe young elephant within the herd also. You know, just the caring they'll receive from the other animals in the group. Like that would most likely be a cousin to that youngster, the one standing next to him or her. I don't think it's its mum, even though it's looking at sort of... Nah, it's just playing. I don't see that. It doesn't look like she's lactating. That is a young female, but the mother would be the bigger one here that you can see the tail swishing. Yeah. So here's the mum catching up on the back. But that young one sort of looking for milk there between the front legs of that other young cow. But I think it's more just a... what's the word? I'm still trying to find my tongue. Give me a day or two. But I'm just looking for that sort of closeness or that reassurance of the proximity of another big one. So it really is just more a social behavior, that. Let's go a little bit forward. They're going into the thick stuff. There's some illies in front of us as well. Now keep in mind with elephant, your female matriarch, so the leader of the group, and her herd would often be together their whole lives. So that young one being born into this group, if it's a female, the young calf, she will spend the rest of her life with many of these elephants as part of a family unit. The bulls tend to move off age 14, 15, 16, 18, depending on circumstances. But the rest of the females in this group, they know each other quite often for life. So it really is a very, very tightly knit family unit, and they help each other on so many levels, even with regards to raising the young ones. There's a great deal of cooperation, obviously very intelligent animals as well, so always fun just to watch them. There we go, a little sniff of the air first. This age as well, this elephant's not very old, 10, 12 years old maybe. Might come and have a look at us if we're lucky. Nice size herd. I can see 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, about 15, 16 just at a quick glance. Many of them sort of just spread out through the bush here. Oh, there we go. Little head shake, asking us what we're up to. But again, just looking at the body language and behavior of the whole herd, they're not concerned about us being here at all. So those kind of head shakes and playfulness is more just to sort of either ask us what we're up to, like how's it, what you're doing, and sometimes just to play. And especially the younger elephants, we had that amazing experience last time we were here with that young elephant mock charging and playing with the cow. Remember that probably forever, one of my favorite memories. But it's very important to gauge the sort of the mood, if you want, of elephant herds when you get close to them. Now again, this herd obviously we saw earlier, it is a herd you've been seeing as well on the drive, so you know that they're pretty used to vehicles. But it's important as you enter a group like this, let's say you haven't seen the herd before, or maybe you're driving in a reserve that you don't know what's going on, so you're just finding things, which is a great way to explore reserves, by the way. Just to get a feel for it. Now, if they were in any way stressed about us, this one, who's still young, would be moving closer to big ones. You'd have some of the big bulls and big cows being a bit more prominent, either in terms of showing themselves, or they would leave. In other words, they would disappear. But if you enter a group like this, they all spread out, they're busy feeding, young one was sort of playing with a youngster earlier, and you can just get a sense that they really are relaxed, they're comfortable with us being here, they're not worried about us being here. Once you've gauged that, then you can move around in the herd. But it's always just firstly good manners. It's polite. When you enter a different group of any animals or humans even, just see what the mood is and then politely sort of integrate into the group. And with elephants, you really can do that. Spending a bit of time with them, you really can integrate into the herd. I'm going to go a little bit forward. This is the same young one that was shaking her head at us just now, so already been a bit curious about us. Just going to go next to them so you can see them better. There we go. No, don't worry guys, we're just having a look. Let's see if she comes back here. I'm just looking over towards our left here. There's another young one, a little bit older than the other calf, but certainly they would be good friends and they would grow up together over the next years. This one's also only a few months old. Well, elephant calves are also born what's called precocial, so they develop before birth. So when they're born within minutes, usually sometimes a bit longer, they can stand, but it still takes them a while to sort of figure out their bodies. You know, they've got 4 legs, 1 trunk, 2 massive ears, so it's important to shake your head and to make sure that you know how to look intimidating and big and all those things that elephants need to do. So these young ones can be very entertaining just to sort of see them being babies really, but also starting to practice techniques and coordination for when they're bigger. But a beautiful view of the tusks there. With elephant you actually have right-tusked or left-tusked elephant, and you refer to it as the working tusk. In this case it looked like her left tusk would be the working tusk, and that just refers to the tusk that they typically use. If they're stripping bark or breaking a branch or digging something out, they would typically use one side rather than the other because they're slightly more coordinated, the same as we are. We're right-handed, most of us, but many of us better coordinated with the left hand, and some of us equally coordinated left and right hand side. Being ambidextrous I always thought is quite a nice thing to be, especially in sports. But that's also a skill they develop over years. So elephants learn how to use their trunks better, how to use their tusks better once they have tusks. We're going to stick with this herd a bit. Hopefully this youngster comes out more into the open. It's always lovely to see these little guys. And from one of the biggest animals in the world and the biggest one on land, we're going to look at something smaller, but let's just say it might remind you of elephant in terms of the ears and the wings. So enjoy that, and we'll see you back here in a bit.
Welcome back everyone, and but it's one of the biggest of the moths that you do get in this area. Moths. It's one of the emperor moths. Steph tells me it's called a Mapani emperor moth. Isn't it absolutely beautiful? You can see it's looking a little bit bedraggled, and I'm not sure how long it's been dead for, but this female has obviously already reproduced, laid her eggs, which are going to hatch into little caterpillars and feed on the fresh green growth of the summer, and then lie dormant in a cocoon waiting for next summer, as she did, and she would have possibly only been alive for a few days. I've only noticed these emperor moths, these specific ones, about a week ago for the first time, and therefore they've got a very short lifespan, as do a lot of insects. And if we take one last closer look at it, it's quite interesting. It's got a very fluffy head. And this fluff also goes onto its underside. And you wouldn't believe, but according to Steph, the experts believe that this furry head is not simply for an aesthetic appeal, but it's to confuse bats who send out frequencies, and these hairs will absorb those frequencies, kind of diffusing the audio that the bats will be receiving, so they won't know there's such a big, tasty morsel nearby. And interestingly enough, it's got another mechanism which it will use to try and deter predators from eating it, and these are these massive false eyes that you can see. So when it's perched down, any animal that looks at it may think, oh, well, this may be part of a bigger beast than it actually is. So some very clever techniques to try and prevent any predators from feeding on it. If I hold it up like this, you'll see it's got quite a big, juicy belly. So a lot of predators would enjoy feeding on this moth. But this one, as you can see, survived its whole life without being fed on and has died naturally before we found it, not too far away. We're going to continue on the trail of this male leopard. We're not too sure where the female's gone. The male was walking down just behind, down to our left, and we're going to continue through this area. It's absolutely beautiful in here, but quite thick, so we're taking it slow. We're testing the wind every now and then, just to make sure we don't get ourselves into any trouble. And hopefully we're going to have some more conclusive evidence as to where this leopard's ended up before the end of this. We're going to continue, though, and send you back to Pieter, who's hopefully repositioned to get you a good view of the elephants, especially that cute little baby. Enjoy it.
Well, Scott and the guys continuing looking for those leopard tracks. Beautiful emperor moth. It really is amazing, the small things out here. I mean, the flowers and the insects and the birds that you see out here, especially in summertime, is unbelievable. Not only in the simple beauty of it and the colors and the shape, but also the design. If you think of the evolution it took to come up with how all these animals interact with each other. Elephants were moving along. That young one crossed in front of us very briefly, but catching up with the rest of the herd. We've just come around to the next road. This is that same young one that was in front of us a little bit earlier. These elephants are, I wouldn't say constant, but in sort of continuous communication with each other. They do talk to each other a lot. We don't always hear it. In fact, we only hear about a third of what they're communicating or saying to each other. The majority of their communication is too low frequency for our ears to pick up. So we hear the trumpets and the rumbles, but a lot of it we don't hear at all. So quite often you look at a herd like this, but at the moment they're all spread out, we're seeing little sort of bits and pieces of them through the undergrowth here. But you would sometimes watch them and suddenly they all move as if on call, and it really is what happens then. Let me just go back a little bit. We've got another one walking in from the back there, a bit of a swagger in the step. It's a young bull. I thought he might be playful. So if there was, for instance, danger, let's say there were suddenly lions around or something that disturbed the herd, they would all gather up very quickly. But at other times, maybe they're busy feeding, and then the matriarch or one of the senior elephants decide, listen, it's time to move on towards a waterhole or to move on to a different area. Most of the time, you'll just notice it from the behavior. Maybe they'll all stand still and they pick up the ears and listen, and then suddenly just all move in a direction. So lots of communication. Even though they don't see each other, they can still talk to each other very easily. Let's move on a bit. Not on as in a way, just on as in through this herd. There's about the next 200 yards or so, there's elephants spread out sporadically. Would love to see that youngster again. And of course, always nice to have a talk, so we'll go through a few questions if you have any. There's one young one. There's quite a few young ones in this herd. Liam, you've seen this herd a few times, huh? Looks like at least 3 or 4 sort of younger than 6-month-old calves in this group. Hello, Sherry from Ohio. Yes, you were asking if I was making that rumbling sound. One of them was me earlier. There were some from the elephants as well. I don't know if you would have necessarily heard them. Liam, could you hear any of theirs rumblings earlier? Yeah, you would have heard some of theirs as well, but probably the loudest one would have been me because I'm sitting... Ooh, there we go. That wasn't me, I hope. That was that youngster, just little trumpet there. They seem to have a knack for doing this today, Vian. When we stop, they go behind the bush. Okay, most of them have crossed the road now, so let's go in here a bit. I actually want to go around a little bit. There's another youngster. This is a bit older. He's about 1.5 years old or so. I want to go around, see if we can't get close to the little ones again. May asking if a baby elephant has ever wandered off and gotten lost from mum. I'm sure, you know, over the last few thousand years that must have happened on a few occasions, but I'm sure not often, if even at all. Reason being, again, they can communicate over great distances with a low frequency sound, but also elephants have got a great sense of smell, so the mum would easily be able to track down the youngster. But I'm sure over the years it has happened where young ones got separated from the adults and not been found again, but I'm sure not common in any way. Let's just have a look at this youngster. Not as small as the smallest ones we saw earlier, but as I mentioned, there's a number of young calves in this herd. Maybe Karen or one of you that saw the herd earlier at the waterhole, if anyone has an estimate of how many, but it looks like at least 15 or 20. Look at the ears all up. Now again, guys, very important to realize that this herd is not bothered by us at all. I mean, there's a female suckling a youngster off in the front. So the behavior that you might see, this one might turn and sort of give us a mock charge or shake the head. That's all bravado, especially these young ones just sort of testing their confidence and courage and sort of comfort, if you want, with us as well. These elephants have grown up seeing vehicles quite often, so they know that we're not a threat to them. But young animals will always be young animals. They like to play, they like to test. They like to walk behind the bushes, especially today it seems. There's a bit of a clearing up ahead again. I just want to see if we can't take a seat here. There's one of the young ones, the smaller ones. This is the first small one we saw again, I think. Yes, it looks like. Quite keeping track of exactly which is which, but this one is tiny. Hello, trying to smell us. The breeze is coming from us towards the elephant, so you can see the trunk being lifted, testing the air. Hey, little guy. Spoke about them eating leaves. With the days getting longer, even if it hasn't rained much, all your trees are flushing, so great food for the elephants. They'll be eating a lot of the new foliage over the next weeks. Of course, for the baby that size, they're still relying on mother's milk. Here's another one, giving us the mock charge. Ah, look at that. Trying to smell us as well. Again, the breeze is going towards them, so smelling us, head up, brave to come and stand right in front of us on his own. It looks like a young bull, and then running back closer to one of the adults again. That reassurance always welcome. And they'll do this not just with Land Rovers, but they will also do it with birds. They'll do it with other animals. I mean, over the years we've seen baby elephant mock charge, if you want, or play with, if you want, in another way, with buffalo, with other elephant, with starlings, often at wartholes. They're one of the birds they chase around often. I've seen them chasing dik-diks or thickneys, those sort of camouflage birds around the wartholes. Anything they can play with, just practicing that elephantness. Let's stick with those two youngsters a bit. Right in the middle of the herd now, there's a couple of big ones around us. Let's see where we can see the most. Just out of interest, the elephant was scratching his belly there just now, but this tree here, it would be a great place for a leopard to run up and have a view from the top. But this was pushed over by elephants possibly years ago, and especially in the rainy season when the sand is wet or the ground is wet, elephants often push these trees over either to get to the leaves at the top or quite often to get to the roots. And quite often those trees will keep on growing. So you find a lot of sort of these funny angled trees around here. Let's just sit here for a bit. We've got one of the big ones, one of the young bulls here. Not young, but young in the sense that he's not a dominant big mating male, but he's separate from the herd already, but spending some time with him. Coming up on the left, that was a clumsy explanation. What I meant is that let's come back to the elephant society, or the social structure. Your breeding herds consist permanently of adult females and youngsters, led by the matriarch, and then you'll have bulls like this often joining them, sometimes just for company, for no other reason than just sharing some time with them. Quite often they would know these herds from before. Very often they would know them well. But it's not because he's mating. If there was a female and estrus here, you would have some big bulls, most often at least one of them in must, following the herd around. So this is just some company for the herd. These bulls will play an active role in the elephant herd as well, meaning if there were lions, suddenly the bulls would also intimidate the lions, or they would also play with the calves. So it really is a beautiful social community, if you want, the elephants in any area. This guy, I would guess, is about 18 or something like that, 20 at the most maybe. Sorry, that's years, age. To come back to the age of this bull. Bull elephants, well, all elephants, but bulls especially, they do grow through their lives. So it's not like us humans where you stop growing. So they get substantially larger and even taller still as they get older. And also from their mid-30s on, their skulls grow faster and their tusks also. So elephants have substantially larger tusks the older they get. Question from Siberia just asking, what's the largest tusks I've ever seen? Trying to think now. There was a great big bull. We've seen some big ones over the last year or two, but back in the days when I was still guiding at Juma, there was one bull. I remember I think his left tusk was lower than the right tusk, but massive tusk. I mean, where they sort of come out of the lip, they were easily as thick, if not thicker than my thigh. A really big bull. We didn't have a name for him specifically, but he was probably the biggest bull I'd ever seen. His tusks were almost touching the ground, but he would have been probably 5 feet, 4 feet at least taller at the shoulder than this guy, and more than, or close to at least twice his weight, probably 7-8 tons. I would guess this elephant we were looking at now at about 3 tons, 3,000 kilograms, which is about 6,500 pounds. So we could drive up this tree actually if we had to check something under the car. Perfect angle for it. Well, we're going to stay with these ellies a bit more. I think they are moving into thick stuff again. We've had such a lovely view of them. So if it gets too thick, we might leave them be. But let's see if we can get a last look at those 2 youngsters. Oh, there we go. Sorry, little dude. Come. So now we're stopping. Hopefully that gives him some more courage. A little bit nonchalant there, pretending he doesn't care about us eating some leaves. This one would still be drinking milk, would still be suckling. There we go, big mock charge. Whoa! I don't think you can ever grow tired of that. Look at that. Front foot up, intimidating us. Very confident little guy. I was going to guess, and it looks like it. Here in the back is the adult. So this is a big female. So I wouldn't say the matriarch, but probably at least sort of second in charge of the females, which is why the youngster is so confident. The more senior the mother of the calf, generally speaking, the more confident the calf. Yeah, that was special. Always love that. I love the fact that even a little elephant like that still knows that he's one of the biggest in the world. And they practice that behavior as well, the confidence of it, sort of the message in the mock charge. A little bit forward here. Might get a little more interaction. Also, the mother is closer again now, so that would boost the youngster's confidence even further. Again, you can't see many of them, but within sort of 30-40 yards, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, like 12 or 13 elephants sort of in a more than a half moon, like a 3/4 moon shape around us at the moment. There's some on the right again, another young one. Now, most of these young ones would be close to, not necessarily their mothers, often their mothers, but otherwise they stay close to other senior or other, not senior necessarily, but other older elephants in the group. And they all help, as I said earlier, even the bulls that visit these groups, they all actively take part in the social structure of the herd. So they would play with or teach or show things to the youngsters, even if it's not their own direct offspring. Just have a look here. They're just coming out in front of us as well. I'm hoping that young one might decide to play again. Just have a look here. There's the same one that was giving us a little mock charge earlier. His head up again. Let's see, maybe a last little, or maybe not. Guys, we just spend a minute or two more with these ellies. We're very lucky that we had this beautiful clearing here, even a little frame from the tree there. But they are going into thicker and thicker stuff, so I think unless this youngster has a last card to play with us, we'll probably leave them be now, just because they are going into thicker stuff and we've had some great time with them. We might be lucky enough to see them again this afternoon. I've got a feeling they might stick around the general area to come for another drink during the course of the day. It's going to get, well, it's not going to get, it is hot, but it's going to get very hot today, so they will be back at the water. And I think we're going to leave these ellies. I'm going to make my way back to the road. We've got a, what time? Sorry, this is my first drive in a while. 5:36, 37:30. We've got about an hour, a little bit less than an hour left of game drive, so we're going to see what else we can find. But in the meantime, from this beautiful herd of elephant, Graham's got a bit of shrewdness going on around where he is. So enjoy it, and we'll see you back here a bit later.
Well, folks, we just stopped at this tree here to see these beautiful little creatures, but they've just disappeared right to the top of the tree. I'm going to roll back a little bit. We've got ourselves a small troop of vervet monkeys. Just whilst I'm rolling back and Brian's trying to get a little lock on them, I just wanted to quickly round up our little bird. We've had our bird sort of quiz, I suppose, or your opinions, and we've had loads of people, Penelope and Linda, and loads of other people on Twitter and email giving us their thoughts on the species that they find most common. Beautiful call in the background you can hear there as well, Cape Turtle Dove, one of my favourites. But we had a lot of people saying Birchall Starling, we had people saying Lilac-breasted Roller, Franklins, we had people saying Grey Lowries and loads of other things as well. So I don't really have a definitive answer on what the most common or prolific bird is, but I have to tell you that birds are incredibly important to Africa and incredibly important to your drive or your encounters, and it's just a matter of stopping sometimes and listening. Now, that Cape Turtle Dove is a quintessential African sound for me. And you might hear off in the distance as well, there's a water pump, and that's a part of Africa as well. We all have to get water. But yeah, fantastic feedback from everyone. So lots of different species. Most common answers that were coming through were Birchall zebra, lilac-breasted rollers, fork-tailed drongos came through as well, and also francolins and other species. And I think one of the things I find really interesting, folks, is that we can never give those birds a cursory glance, as I always say, because they are all very, very special as well, just because we see them quite often. Now, we've got this little vervet in this tree here, Brian, and he's just being a little elusive. I'm going to try and creep up a bit closer, folks. I know Pieter was with some amazing elephants just prior to you coming to me, so just want to see if we can. We saw the shaking of those leaves. There they go. They go right to the ends there. A little tricky. It's going to be just a black silhouette, sadly. Oh, a silhouette, sorry. Right out on the ends there. Of the limbs, Brian. Very tricky for Brian to put. So put your camera person in a position like this. It is literally a silhouette, and you can't go up into the sun like that. So we might, right at the tops of the trees, folks. It's very, very tricky for Brian, and I can't really get into a better position. I'll give it one more try, Brian, just back here. Great little monkey, probably the most common primate in this part of the world. We don't see baboons as much. Have you seen baboons lately, Brian? No. I'm just going to go around here, just off to the side here, just to have a little look. Brian won't be shooting back into the sun then, and we might get a little look at them, but they go right to the tops of the trees. And sometimes they'll play game with us, and other times they'll just hide. You haven't got anything there, have you, mate, really? Tricky. Anyway, folks, up in those trees, and it's not that tall a tree, but it just goes to show you how quickly they can disappear into the foliage and hide. And you can see a tail. There's a tail, Brian, just through there. You can see that. I'll just stop for you. Little tail hanging down there. There we go. Little tail, and that's about it. The elusive vervet monkey. Very, very funny little guy. And that long tail. Beautiful, beautiful creature. They live in all different kinds of woodland and habitats, and really super creature. Really just the tail, that's about it. Can't really talk about the physiology of them that much without looking at them or seeing them, but we'll come across them again. It's always one of those things, you've got to keep looking, you've got to keep looking around. We hit a couple of little gremlin areas down there before and had to get out of that zone down there. It's funny, you know, sometimes we get a little signal drop out in a place for no apparent reason, and you know, when you've got brains on these things like Graham and Alex and Eugene and Pieter and all these wonderful heads on this, and you know, there's an incredible amount of knowledge that goes into broadcasting this signal. There's some things that you just scratch your head, and the guys try constantly to improve, always trying to improve, but I know that you understand these little dropouts is part and parcel of broadcasting live out of the African bush. I just got a lovely question from Tim in San Diego in California. Tim, thank you very much for contacting us and watching, and how wonderful it is. I love San Diego, one of my favorite places in the United States, and I've been there many, many times. One of the best zoos on the planet as well. And great question, Tim. What was the first thing I did when I came back to Juma yesterday? Well, I have to tell you this. We drove through the gate, and after we passed this gate and we came in and cleared our vehicle, I drove around the corner, and the first thing I did was looked out the window and saw tracks and saw what was sort of going down the road. There's a lot of elephant activity. There's loads of elephant on the reserve at the moment, and the next thing I did was saw giraffe, and that to me was the first memory I have of coming back to Juma yesterday. This just seeing giraffes and knowing that 36 hours ago I was looking at the engine of an aircraft out a window 33,000 feet above the sky, above sea level, and then when I go through the motions and I land in this beautiful place, and the first thing you see is giraffe, I'm a happy man. I'm a happy man. So Tim, thanks mate, thanks for watching, so great to have you on board as always. Just want to tootle along down here. I want to try and pick up those giraffe again, see where they've moved to. Keeping my eyes out here, folks, and Brian as well. They're probably going to be over in this area here. Got a great question from Lorene and Lenny. Thank you so much. Again, thanks for watching. Always a pleasure to have people I've probably never met or I may have met, and please excuse me if I don't remember names. And as I said, the old memory is going a little bit these days. But all you wonderful people. Lorene and Lenny are asking how giraffes communicate. Well, it's a pretty hot topic at the moment, I have to say. Lenny and Lorene, I just want to answer your question as I'm driving, because we're a bit tight on time now. I want to try and find these giraffe again. Excuse me, please. There's some latest research that's showing that giraffes do or are using a very, very low frequency humming sort of a sound. Now, why? We're not sure. As I said before when we first started this morning, there hasn't been a lot of long-term studies done on giraffe, and I think there's as we speak, there'll be scientists planning a study on giraffe and what that humming sound or that frequency that they use is for. for me, I have to say I'm really looking forward to finding that out. I don't really know. The only noises I've ever heard of from a giraffe. Oh, look at that. Well spotted. Brian just saw him from behind that beautiful marula there. Just trying to think how to get around there, Brian. So Lenny and Lorraine, the noises that I've heard are a snorting or a grunting sound, and it's only been when they're sort of hasn't really necessarily been an alarm call, but sometimes when two males I've seen together, particularly in a zoo situation, I've seen that or heard that before, and I'm not really sure what this humming frequency or this humming sound that they're picking up is all about. Brian, what do you think, mate? Is there a little track down there you can see? Let me just go around. I'm just going to try and see if there's a little track down here, folks, that can get us closer to these giraffes. But Lenny and Lorraine, it's a very, very interesting thing, and I think something that we should keep our ears and eyes on when it comes to the science behind it and the studies that are being done. I know that they're putting a lot of low frequency or microphones in zoos and in captive animal situations where they can pick up data in a very, very controlled environment. As you can imagine, it's tricky to try and record giraffes in the wild. There's a little road here, Brian, isn't there? Or am I imagining it? Ah, yes, there's a little track here. We might try and get round closer to them. But really interesting stuff, and you would think that a mammal of that size would have some form of communication. Giraffes really like to be in the proximity of other, it's a very, very open sort of conversation. Some people tell you they've seen lone bull giraffes for weeks, months, years sometimes, and it does occur. But they like to be in sort of proximity of each other. They're not super tight when it comes to just in their browsing or feeding behaviors. But when they're traveling across in open areas, you often see them in loose herds as well. Tell me when you've got a good shot, Brian. I think they're just here somewhere, mate. Yeah. Just going to try and get around here for you, mate. There might be a shot just through this, behind this. A bit backlit, unfortunately. Not as close as I'd love to be, but that's okay. Right, it's just, sorry, mate. Always trying to get out, your partner in this whole team is not very good there, mate, is it? Brian's going to try and get a shot there for us, folks, while we'll just see what these giraffes do. But always getting your camera person or your buddy in the back there into a shot position is quite important. You can see what that giraffe's doing at the moment. You'll see that big bolus of. It's a little bit backlit. I'm so sorry. But Brian's working some magic there to try and get in as close as he can, and the road just sort of goes around. I don't want to ever disturb these animals from doing what they're doing naturally, and she's just looking right across here, so she may walk across this way, but what she's doing right now as we're watching is ruminating. And many people know this anyway, but it's just a great little sort of pointer. Sorry, Brian. You want to move forward a bit, mate, or is that good? You happy? Ruminating. So she's regurgitated some browse or some foliage that she's eaten, and she's chewing it up and getting the most out of it. One of the most efficient herbivores in Africa are the ruminants. There's no doubt about it. Several chambered stomach, the ability to regurgitate their food and get the most out of that. Break down that cellulose. Very, very tricky thing for animals to do. Great ability to do that with giraffes and these ruminants. And she's going to chew that up and then swallow it again. We will, and I'm sure, I think I saw a segment of Safari Live when I was watching one day, and the wonderful Jamie did a little thing on the bonnet with some feces or some droppings, and it's really interesting stuff to pick them up and have a look at them. And we'll do it with a giraffe dropping, and open it up and have a look at the efficiency of that digestive system, the way that they grind that up and they get the most out of that foliage. Whereas you look at an elephant or a hippo for that matter, and you'll see that there's still a lot of a digestive system that is nowhere near as advanced, and you still see lots of sticks and foliage in its true form, Nelly. Just looking around to see where the others are. So we're just going to sit with her for a little bit, folks, and I think we're going to cross over to Scott on a walk. And you know, Scott is amazing with what he picks up from and he gleans from this real fine detail. And on a walk, it's one of the most fantastic things about it. You can stop and look at the small stuff, really important, and tracks and signs. And as we just talk about the giraffe having a really efficient digestive system, elephants have not as efficient a digestive system, that's for sure. And they will strip loads and loads of different vegetation sources, roots, bark, leaves, everything. But anyway, Scott's going to tell you more about that, and we're going to cross to him now. We'll see you just now.
Welcome back, guys. And we don't have an animal feeding like you've just been spending time with Hayden, but what we do have is some evidence of where the animals were feeding. And the culprit here was an elephant, and what would have happened is it would have wrapped its trunk around this branch and then stripped in this direction. And look closely, you can see all the little bits of leaves that have been crushed against the branch as the elephant would have stripped its trunk against it. You can even see these little pieces of bark bent in the direction that the trunk moved, and it got all the leaves it needed to off this branch and then put some of them into its mouth. But if we take a closer look a little bit lower down, you'll begin to learn and understand that elephants are quite messy feeders. Look at all these little pieces of this sickle bush that the elephants have dropped. And I guess a little bit different to the giraffe that you've seen feeding. They're quite neat feeders. And not only are they neat feeders, but they also have a much better digestive system than the elephants. And I believe Hayden was telling you a little bit about that. So I guess a bit of wastage, but other animals will make the most of that. So even though the elephants are a bit wasteful, this will potentially be a meal for an animal that couldn't reach up to these leaves, and will thank the elephant for dropping them and leaving them behind. One last thing that I would like to show you, because it's something to look forward to in the coming weeks. There are already a few of these sickle bushes in flower, but this is the initial bud, and all these little bumps that you can see are going to sprout into bright yellow, purple, and white lantern-looking like flowers. So their name is a Chinese lantern, one of the name that is given to these flowers. So that's something to look forward to, because they should all start flowering soon, although there are one or two that are already flowering. We're still on the trail of this leopard. He's heading in a westerly direction, so hopefully we're going to find him at some stage. If not this morning, maybe this afternoon. But it's been good fun following his trail and seeing what we can find along the way. So we're going to continue, and while we do, we're going to send you back to Hayden with the giraffe. Enjoy. Go ahead, Brent. confirm they are in the drainage on Buffelshoek cut line, just east of Gari cut line. Okay, copy, thanks. Well, apologies, everyone. I thought we were going to be sending you back to Hayden, but I'm told we are still live. I just got an update through from Brent there, and he says that he has found some more tracks. They're also still working these tracks, and they're up on Buffelshoek cut line, probably about 500 meters away from where we were. So apologies for that confusion, and apologies for leaving you and Jean-Andre behind us over there, but good to have you back. So what we may as well do is bring you along and take you to the most recent tracks, which are up and to our right. And because we are still away from those tracks, we aren't necessarily going to keep you with us anymore, and now we shall send you back to Hayden. Goodbye.
So folks, we've just stayed with this female. I just drove down the road whilst we went to Scott, and the others are over here. They're a little bit far off the road, so just going to stick with her and just see if she's browsing nice and relaxed there. Might just put my nose into here a little bit further, a little bit closer. I think she's very comfortable with us. I don't want to move her on, but we'll just nose a little bit closer while she feeds. So just apologies while I just start the vehicle. It's okay, my girl. For you, Brian? Yeah, she's just browsing along that tree line there, and I don't want to pursue her. Wow, she's gone right over to this other road now. We're just watching her walk off. You know, I've worked with giraffe for a very long time, folks, and when you can sit with them in a captive situation, and you know that's a situation that the animals are generally bred normally, and I'd say they, in this day and age, definitely bred in captivity. You get a chance to really notice the difference in the changes, particularly through the gestation period. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go around. I just want to try and get another eyeball around the other side on her and make sure, again, we just let her feed along this vegetation line. We don't change her behaviour whatsoever. So my point is that I do think that she might be in the early stages of pregnancy. That's what I'm just trying to get at. She's got a little bit of a healthy looking belly there. And that gestation period, very, very long for her. I know many people know all these things and a lot of these facts already, but it's just, it makes you realise how incredible the animal world is. 15 months gestation period. But boy, when that little creature comes out, that calf is born and is ready to roll. They hit the ground, and in a very, very short space of time, they can get to their feet. I'm just going to really nudge our way up here gently, and just be with this female for a bit. But she's beautiful now. She's come a little bit closer to this side of the road. bit through there, Brian? Is that not really, mate? Is it? It's not great for you. I'll just move around and see if we can go back the other way. So while I'm trying to reposition, everyone, I'll find a nice spot. We'll just get her used to us as well. And I'm going to just reposition. We'll get comfortable with her. And whilst I do that, as we always say, the small stuff is really, really important to watch. Come across and have a look at what Pete's up to now. We'll see you right now.
Well, guys, welcome back this side. Beautiful giraffe. And we actually came here for something else, which we'll show you just now. But this is a little animal we don't see often, or at least not get to see often. We see them often, but always just a darting glimpse. It's a slender mongoose, a young one as well. It's got that little black tip on the tail. In fact, in Afrikaans, we call them a swartkwas meisond, which means a black tail-tipped mongoose. He's disappearing. The reason we stopped here, actually, or came down into this drainage line, is where are we now? There. Something that always feels ancient and primal and almost dinosaur-like. It's a monitor lizard, or more specifically a rock monitor. And this is a guy we've seen before on drives. VM was saying they've seen this one twice in the last while, apparently on an old buffalo carcass a while back. And the reason we can recognize this monitor lizard, even though he's disappearing now, try and have a look at his tail if there's one last opportunity. We'll see if we can see more, but he's going into thick stuff. His tail is a bit short. And I remember him from actually years back, so that's an old injury. I would guess probably from a leopard, a lion cub, a hyena, another monitor lizard, maybe he was younger, would have bitten that tail off. But yeah, he's gone into the... Yeah, we're not going to see more of him. Stunning though. Rock monitor, as the name suggests, they're often around rocky areas, around where we are. Oh, you've got him again, VM. Brilliant. There he goes. There we go, walking away from us. You can see that tail and the sort of side-to-side movement. Around here, rock monitors more often actually live in termite mounds, hollow tree trunks, you know, sort of this kind of habitat. They're also very good tree climbers. So if something was coming along that would potentially be a threat to him, he would just scurry up a tree. Although quite often they can just stand their ground as well. That guy would be, his body would be probably 2-3 feet. With the tail, they can be over 1 meter long, so 3.5 feet, a big one. And they've got quite a vicious bite, very strong jaw. And then that tail, even half a tail like that, they've got a good lash with it, so they can give you a sort of a whip-like sort of slap with it as well. Nice to see some small things down here as well. I've just said as well, I think 5 times. Don't worry, I'll get back into this as the day goes on. We've got a bit of time to go. Let me just familiarize myself with the vehicle. We were sort of just looking around in general. We saw some nice tracks as well, the same tracks that Brent and the guys were following earlier. Mvula most likely, the big male leopard, nice big tracks. Saw them up here in the riverline, hoping that it might pop out. Also might be the leopard that was calling this morning at 4 o'clock, for those of you that heard it. But you know, one of my favorite collective nouns, you know, you can speak about a shrewdness of monkey. I was mentioning that earlier, or dazzle of zebra is a nice one as well. But I love the word journey. Journey as a whole is a beautiful word, but a journey of giraffe is just such a beautiful way of describing them. And possibly a pregnant one, so Hayden's going to talk to you a bit more about giraffe in general and that specific individual. So we will see you probably just before the end of drive. Enjoy.
So we've just stayed with this female now. I just heard some amazing elephant vocalizations over beyond her as well, which is probably what she's looking at. So we might come across them, or they might come across us any second as well. But just sticking with giraffe, and we did have a question come through just before, and just get that question again. But it's a very, very interesting thing to sit with these animals when they're really relaxed like this, and just watch what they do. Very tranquil, very, very relaxed with us, as you can see. But she's ruminating again now. So we've got a great question from Mars in Arizona, in Tucson, Arizona, and about what's the effectiveness of the digestive system, or a ruminant's digestive system. And it's a very, very interesting sort of set of a very complex but at the same time efficient digestive system. And how it's evolved, goodness, I probably have to look up a lot of information myself on that, but you will always find in an evolutionary sense that these successful animals, the most successful hoofed animals, even toed ungulates, they're called, ungulates being the sort of the proper name for hoofed animals. And just standing there in the shade at the moment, look at her, she's turning around, she's got some oxpeckers that's just landed on her neck as well there, Brian. It's just, I don't want to really go any closer to her just because she's so, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit far away, Brian, but we'll just let her settle for a second. So that rumination process, is the efficiency of it is just what's the standout thing. And that bacteria that they have in their stomachs, very, very efficient at breaking down cellulose, as I mentioned before. Very tricky thing to do for animals, break down cellulose. But the bacteria and this fermentation process that goes on through those chambered stomach is why they're so successful. So that fermentation process also, it happens in the second part of the stomach, the biggest, well, I think it's the second biggest, I may be wrong there, stand corrected, chamber called the rumen, and that's where that sort of the most breakdown occurs. Gosh, covered in oxpeckers there right up her neck. We're going to just mosey on up a little bit here, folks. I really want to watch her don't, she's in a nice shady patch there, so we'll just creep up. It's okay, my girl, carry on. I'm going to stop. If you stop chewing, I'll stop chewing. I'll stop driving even. Very beautiful. So the average height of a female is around 14, sort of 15 feet max, about just over 4 meters, I think. And then you get right up into the sort of 18s and 19 feet with males. Again, I can't quite remember what the highest recording is, but I'm pretty sure it was around 19 feet, or about just under 6 meters. And they've carved out this niche. They've got this niche that they exploit on the vegetation line that is it's just fantastic. The only other animal that really competes with them is the elephant. So what we're going to do is I think we'll leave her be. I don't want to go up any closer to her, because if I drive past her, she's going to move out of the way. She's standing in a nice shady spot there. I'm going to let her be, and I'll turn around. And I think that's one of the things that we do when we watch wildlife, is we're part of their habitat or their ecosystem. We're invited guests. Maybe not invited all the time, but we do come into their habitat, and it's nice to sometimes let them have the control, and we just work around them. It's great stuff. That's what it's all about. Key to success there is driving into their habitat and watching them behave naturally. So I'm just going to sneak back down this road and head over the other side and see what we can come across. Again, just getting to know the roads and things, folks, but it's so fantastic to be back. And as I said, thank you very much for all being here this morning. So as we drive, we don't always have the opportunity to get super close to things, and as you walk through the bush, you can get a very different perspective. And I think that's what's the beautiful thing about Safari Live. These bushwalks intertwined with the drives, different concepts and different perspectives on the natural world. And I'm going to cross over to Scott now because I think he's got something really interesting for you guys. We'll see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone. And finally, we get to show you some cicadas. I'm making this loud crut noise. Chandra, I've just spotted another one that might be even better to try and show everyone. It's just down to our left over here. And we've been hearing them so much, but this is the first time we've actually been able to show them to you. This one over here is quite a lot closer. You got it there, Chandra. And let's hope it continues to call. You'll see their bottom shaking wildly as they do call. This one isn't currently calling, but it may join in the chorus shortly. They are littered over all of these magic guarri bushes, but are not only on them, they're also on a few knobthorn trees, but are enjoying creating a loud cacophony in this area this morning. And happy to finally be able to show them to you. I know a lot of you have got them in your home countries, but they're very camouflaged and hard to see. And it really is wonderful to hear all of them calling, and not only to hear them, just to find them for a change. This one, has it started? No, I don't think it has just yet. We've been moving very silently through this area. There's quite a lot of fresh elephant sign here, and it's getting quite thick. As you can see, we're approaching a riverbed, so taking it very slowly. And that's the great thing about being on foot. The slower you move, the smaller, finer details you begin to pick up. One thing that we've also noticed is that the wind is also beginning to blow quite a lot more, although at the moment we're not in the windiest of areas, but the wind is beginning to swirl a lot more, so we're taking that into consideration as we're walking along. And we're going to continue now down into this drainage, so come along with us and let's see if we can find you anything else before we send you back to Hayden and what sounds like a great giraffe sighting. Very happy that he's got to see the giraffe already. It's one of his favorite animals, so that's good news. Now, we've been spending a lot of time tracking this morning, and Jonathan in Texas would like to know if... Sorry, I've just walked Jandro through a tricky area there. He's getting snagged on a tambuti tree, or at least the antenna is. That's why I needed to reverse temporarily. Sorry though, Jonathan in Texas. And you've asked a good question on the topic of tracking, which we've been doing quite a lot of this morning. And he would like to know if I've ever been completely stumped by a fresh track. And I certainly have many times, and I will continue to be, because it's incredible how the power of your brain, and that coupled with lack of experience in tracking, can cause you to underestimate what actually has happened on the ground. And quite often we will see different tracks that we're not entirely sure of. Honey badgers and porcupine are two tracks that are quite easy to confuse between one another. So that's an example of some tracks that are very clear but maybe difficult to distinguish, especially if you are starting out as a tracker. Anyway, good to hear from you, John, and we're going to send you back to Hayden and catch up a little bit later.
So folks, we heard these elephants somewhere here. Just vocalizing before. And I was just going to scratch around here and have a look for them. We left our giraffe back there feeding nicely. What do you reckon, Brian? What's your gut feeling? Is it right? Yeah. Just have a little poke around down here, folks, and see if we can find these ellies. At this time of the day too, the temperature's risen dramatically, and you'll find the elephant will be going into cooler, shaded areas, just to maybe browse and get out of this heat, or they'll be at a water point. But again, I just drove past Juma, past the main dam there. Goodness, there's a tiny little patch I think you saw with Pieter earlier this morning of those just mud with a couple of catfish in it. So it is a really, really dry time. The rains will come, and I think these water holes are desperately waiting for it. I can definitely smell ellies. There's a beautiful, beautiful smell of an elephant in the wild. It's just this sweet smell of it's very hard to explain. It's a musky sort of a smell that you know, it's their droppings and the urine and everything, but the smell of the elephants themselves. So it might I probably am not describing it, not selling it to you that well, but it is a very, very beautiful smell. And just to give you a little sort of sensory update as well, you know, the temperature's rising at the moment, which you know, has a tendency to the temperature rising, the hot air rising, the smells you don't get as much now at this time of the day as you do early in the morning or late in the afternoon when the cooler air is around. But when you do come across those wafts of elephant or lion or something like that, it's a fantastic smell. It just starts your heart rate rising. It's beautiful. Gorgeous colour through here at the moment, a flush of green, beautiful flush of green that's come from those September rains, but there's more on the way. Keeping my eyes out. Heading down in this little dip here. Signal can be a little bit scratchy around here, folks, so I do apologise if we drop out, so please bear with me. I'll go nice and slow through. Definitely heard elephant just here a second ago. Guys, I'm going to just cross to Pieter quickly and get out of this dodgy little spot and then back to the left. And it was, I think, about 3 minutes to live. We were looking for the leopard, and then we spotted a leopard in the tree. So maybe not today, but maybe next time again. Oh, some good stuff with Hayden and the giraffe. The cicadas are amazing. Shows you the eyes in those guys to spot a cicada. Normally the only way you find them is by very carefully trying to find them by sound, but most likely if you see them flying and landing, that's pretty much the only way to really find them. They're amazing in the sense that they can also make their sound louder and softer to try and sort of confuse you as to where they can actually be, and obviously camouflaged better than almost anything. We're not far from camp now, and I'm just hoping to bump into something here in quarantine, which is what we call this sort of general area.
mongoose calling. It wasn't really an alarm call, it was more just saying there's something. Obviously, probably looking at us, just letting the other mongoose know that something's about, but nothing to be concerned about. It's not a leopard, it's not an eagle, it's not a snake. Guys, we lost signal there quite suddenly from Hayden. I believe you were busy talking about elephants and some of the sounds and communications they do and sounds they make. The radio is breaking up a little bit. I think it was Rory. Liam? Rory or Roy? Rory from Wisconsin, just asking how do they make that sound. Well, they produce it or they magnify a lot of it in the trunk. So the trumpeting obviously is just like a trumpet, which is pretty much the trunk that they blow the sound through, and then the various other sounds can be amplified using the trunk as well. Speaking of giraffes that you were watching earlier, there's some giraffe up in the left-hand side here, which we'll get closer to just now. And Rory, it's not just the trunk in the sort of the extension part. And typically we look at the trunk and you think of the long part of it, but also right in the base of the trunk, so up where it sort of joins up with the skull or the head. In that area, there's a lot of sound that can be produced and manipulated. The elephants are probably better at making sound than I was right there, but they can manipulate or alter the sound as well in that area. So in that sort of base part of the trunk. Speaking of sound, one of the quietest animals, some giraffe. Okay guys, sorry, I was just uncertain about something there for a minute, but we are with these giraffe, and this is the same group that were close to camp early this morning. This is also a female, possibly pregnant as well. She's got a nice big belly, but giraffe don't have a fixed sort of gestation or birthing time really, that they've got a fixed gestation period, but birthing season, like for instance impala and kudu would. But again, there is an increase in young giraffe in summertime, so likely to be a few of them walking around with baby giraffe folded up like contortionists inside the mother's belly. It's been a beautiful day. Giraffe, ellies, impala, lots of game, and just to be back in the bush is really such a pleasure. So very excited to be back here, and just a warm welcome again on the drive, and thank you so much for all the warm welcomes back here. So from myself, Pieter, for now I'm going to say cheers. Looking forward to the drive this afternoon. Looking forward to really getting into the swing of things. VM, always a pleasure to be on the vehicle with you. Everyone back in control room as well. And see you this afternoon. And with that, I'm going to stop stammering along. Hayden will say cheers to you. Bye-bye. Well, folks, we found the elephants.
as we said, they're in a little clump of vegetation, little hollow just behind a termite mound over there. I'm not going to disturb them either. It's very, very thick through there, and it's a breeding herd as well, so they were vocalizing. There was a bit of unrest, so we don't want to disturb them too much, and it probably would take us about 5 or 10 minutes to get in there. So I just wanted to get up to a little area here and stop on this road and round up and just say thank you to everyone, and tell you that we'll be back later on this afternoon to do exactly the same thing all over again. And it's going to be a fantastic week, and just a great pleasure to be back here with everyone, and what a great team of people. I'm just going to drive around this corner here and stop on the top. I do apologise, I'm just driving a little bit fast because I want to get to a better signal spot for you. When I say fast for what I normally drive. Here. Because this road, for me, so that road ahead there is a road that I've seen many a thing come down. I've been driving here at certain times of the day, early in the morning, beautiful light coming over here, and I've had wild dog walking up the road. It's been quite an extraordinary sight. I've seen elephant walking up the road, I've seen lion walking up this road, and I've seen leopard crossing this road. You know, it's one of those roads that as soon as I pull onto it, it looks like it just goes on forever. And it's quite a beautiful place just to sit and finish today. Folks, I just want to tell you something that is really important to me. You know, you hear these incredible guides every single day, the likes of Jamie and James and Steph and Scott and Brent. And you know what? The information that they pour out of their souls is just unbelievable, overwhelming. I want to tell you how incredibly unique this is. I watch this from all over the world, and this thing, Safari Live, there's nothing like this on the planet. There is nothing like this going on anywhere else in the world. And for me to be part of this and just to have a reality check, to pinch myself, Brian and I, sitting here, our job to take you on Safari Live is a pretty incredible thing, and a bit of a leveler. Folks, it's been great. It's good to be back. We'll see you soon. You never know what's around the next corner. Thanks for watching.